I'm sitting here looking at this little conifer in front of my grandma's house, and I just realized, we ain't really talk about gymnosperms too much. You feel me? And part of that's because most of the plants that we're going to run into are angiosperms, but I feel like it's important to talk about gymnosperms too. So let's get into it. When we talking about conifers, you feel me? We talking about gymnosperms, we talking about spruces, we talking about pines. When I say gymnosperms, they produce differently than, say, angiosperms, okay? Angiosperms being flowering plants. And since we here, all right, we might as well talk about these. So this is called a rose of Sharon, right? Now I'm here to tell you off the bat, it's kind of a misnomer, and that's why common names are kind of misleading sometimes. So even if I ain't know what this is related to, it's real easy ways we can figure out what it's related to. Because once again, plants are classified by their reproductive structure. So, just looking at it, you see it got alternate leaves, like a lot of members in the Rosaceae family. But if you look at the flower, you get a different story. So you got this, this star-shaped flower. You got 5 on the corolla. You got 5 on a calyx. You feel me? But then the thing that really stands out about this flower is you got your pistils and your stamens all arranged on this one little tube, okay? And then just by feeling the flower, you also, it's kind of squishy / like slippery, okay? So off the bat, that tells me this is related to hibiscus, It's in the Malvaceae family. Now, of course, I know the name. This is Hibiscus, SYRIACUS, I think. I think it's Hibiscus SYRIACUS. So, you could tell by the name it's in hibiscus. But even if you ain't know all that, just based on flowers in Malvaceae are normally going to have 5 on the corolla, 5 on the calyx. They're normally going to have these kind of slippery flowers, and that's because of the polysaccharide they have stored in them. And they're normally going to have all of their reproductive structures stored on this. It's always going to have these staminate structures and these pistillate structures arranged on that singular column like that. So boom, that's the ism. So if you go over here, it's about to rain. Check it. All right, hibiscus, MOSCHEUTOS, something we kind of more used to looking at. This is what comes to mind when you talk about hibiscus for most people, even though those are the same genus. Oh, it got a little bee on it. Oh no, that's not a bee. I can't see through the camera, y'all. Anyway, same thing, right? You got your male and female organs arranged on that same column. You got 5 on the corolla, and you got 5 on the calyx. Oh, that's a nice calyx. 5 on the calyx. All right. You got alternate leaves, it's real simple. So, first, to talk about gymnosperms, we got to talk a little bit of history first, which I know might not be some of y'all favorite subject, but we gonna get into it. And the reason why is because, gymnosperms are a little bit older of a lineage than angiosperms. And to understand how these spermatophytes, which are angiosperms and gymnosperms, any seed-bearing plants, to understand how these spermatophytes came about, we got to understand the environment in which they formed. So if we going back 300 million years, okay, that's when the common ancestor for all of the angiosperms started to diverge from that of gymnosperms. Now, of course, as we know, angiosperms didn't begin to actually develop and speciate until the Cretaceous. At least that's what the scientific consensus is. Now, you got people here and there saying that there is evidence of proto-angiosperm like plants in the Jurassic, but as far as the consensus, everybody is relatively on the same page that angiosperms started to develop in the Cretaceous. Now, gymnosperms, on the other hand, started developing much earlier, and we see the first evidence of true gymnosperms in the Carboniferous. Now, some people once again will say that, you know, the ancestors of gymnosperms or proto-gymnosperms might have developed around the Devonian. But as of right now, the consensus is that gymnosperms developed in the Carboniferous. And why this is important is the Carboniferous is a kind of a turning point for plants as far as the evolutionary history of this planet. And I'm gonna get into that more, but first let me skip along these rocks a little bit so I can get the more dry ground, and then we'll pick it back. I does this, boy. I does this. Let's go. Woo! Let's go. Now, as I'm walking, I'm looking for me a pine tree or a spruce or something, you know, some kind of conifer. And we have quite a few of them in Indiana. And it's just my luck. I'm in a whole forest and can't find them. I know where to find some, but I kind of wanted to change the scenery, but that's what I get. Anyway, as I was saying, while we continue to look, long story short, the Carboniferous saw a big boom as far as plant development and plant diversification. Now, gymnosperms started to develop around the middle to the end of the Carboniferous, and the Carboniferous was known for a whole bunch of plants covering the entire planet. You know, very dense rainforests, and as such, it had the highest oxygen content, you know, of Earth's history. Oxygen content was around 35%, give or take, whereas now it's about 19. Kind of shallow as deer tracks. That's cool. About 19% today. So what happened was the planet started to get a lot cooler, and an extinction level event ended up occurring because of the drop in the planet's temperature, because of the high oxygen content. And so a lot of these rainforests ended up being cleared out. And these rainforests were mainly comprised of... Sorry, y'all. I always end up getting a phone call at the most inopportune times. I really should start putting this thing on airplane mode. But what I was saying was, these Carboniferous rainforests were largely comprised of lycopsids and tree ferns, which aren't really trees. And so at the end of the Carboniferous, once these rainforests started to dissolve away, the plants that made up the rainforest were eventually replaced by gymnosperms, okay? And I'm still not seeing any gymnosperms in this forest. So what we're gonna do is change the scenery one more time. Let me find me a nice old pine tree to post up by and talk about, and then we'll go from there. All right, that's better. That's better. All right, so check this out. You got you here, a PICEA ABIES. All right, a Norwegian spruce. Now the thing about, I always say common names are confusing, but I tell you what, that Latin name is kind of confusing too, because PICEA is usually more closely related to spruces. And for the genus name, that makes sense because it is a spruce. But then ABIES are more closely associated with firs. So I don't know why they did it like that. You're gonna have to ask who did it. But yeah, man, it's a PICEA ABIES. See here, you got these little needles growing off of this sterigma right here. Now, that's kind of characteristic of really conifers in general, especially stuff in like PINACEAE. You know, you get these needle-like leaves. And see, I see some cones up there. I wonder if I could zoom in, if my camera will focus, because up here you got You got male cones. I want to see some like female cones. See if they got any mature ones on here. I don't really see any mature female cones. Maybe I'm not looking hard enough. Oh, bet. All right, so over here, matter of fact, damn, if my camera will zoom in, you got some mature female cones right there. Okay, now you get male cones and female cones. Obviously, the male cones producing, pollen, and the female cones producing ovum, which eventually turns into a seed. And that one is mature. It's opening up, which means the seeds are fertilized. Eventually, they will be dispersed. Now, as we previously discussed, these trees, conifers in general, don't produce flowers. Okay, so all of the fertilization, most of the fertilization is going to be wind driven. Oh, another thing about these that's really cool, actually, if you into that real nerdy shit. So these Norwegian spruces are the first gymnosperms to have their genomes mapped out, which doesn't really mean anything if you ain't no nerd, but it's kind of cool if you are. Also, these is real high in vitamin C, so make you a little tea out of it. You know what I'm saying? Protect yourself from coronavirus and other illnesses. I really don't know if that's how that works. Am I recording? More importantly, I didn't see my clock for a second. I got nervous. I don't know if I'm recording. But yeah, make yourself a tea, real high in vitamin C, and drop you some agave in it, because it's gonna be bitter. But yeah, man, that's a Norwegian pine for you. PICEA ABIES. What else I got to say about this tree? Nothing really. I think we covered all our gymnosperm talk today. That's the birds and the bees for you. So I'll holler at y'all later.